It is an honor and a pleasure to have you guys all here with us for this month's Keto and Carnivore Collective. And today is our first meeting and the first lesson. And the way we structure this normally is on Mondays, we'll do our lesson. And then after the lesson, we'll answer any questions you guys have, do a little Q&A session there at the end. On Thursday, we'll do just a straight Q&A. So on Thursday, we'll be here at the same time, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be here to answer any questions you've got.
Which is 11 a.m. Eastern.
That's 11 a.m. Eastern. But we're going to do a little bit of an intro to the Discord today. And so everybody who made it into the voice chat, you guys understand how to enter the voice chat, and not too difficult. You just click into the voice chat. If you're on a PC or computer or Mac, it's on the left-hand side. If you're on your mobile device, you'll see the voice channels over there on the left-hand side as well. You just click on that or tap on that and allow access to your microphone. So that's one of the important things. Give access to your device. So go to the settings, allow microphone access, allow photos, camera to access, and share images and videos. That will allow you guys to be in here, to hear us, and to talk to us. And of course, while we're doing the lessons, please make sure to keep the microphone muted because ambient noise in the background, you guys might hear our kids fussing and fighting in the background, and we'd be able to hear yours as well. So keep it muted, ride the mute until you're talking, and that'll help it to help us to make sure that everybody can hear and everybody is not hearing you fighting with your husband or wife in the background. You never know what's going to be going on there in the background. So let's see. As far as the rules go for the Discord, we don't really have to have any rules here. Everybody's usually really respectful and helpful to each other. But remember, we're here to help each other. We're here to support each other. We're not here to argue about, we're not here to create strife. We're not here to argue. We're not here to lambast each other. We're here to support, help each other. We're here to build a foundation of nutritional and lifestyle habits that we can maintain long term. So, Jessica, would you jump into the main chat and tell everybody how to enter the voice chat? We've got about 3 or 4 people who are in the Discord server, but who are not in the live voice chat yet. So just jump in there right now and tell them how to do that, please, sweetie.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, rules: be kind, be supportive, and that's all. There are several channels in the text channels on the left-hand side there that you'll see on the screen. The main chat. That's usually what people use most of the time. The main chat. So when we're here on the on these live lessons and in these live Q&As, you guys can talk amongst yourselves, chat amongst yourselves over there in the main chat. If you have questions, or if you're not able to make it to these Q&A sessions, or if you're here during the Q&A sessions and you've got questions, you can throw them up. But in the Q&A questions section, there is a meal prep section as well where we'll be sharing resources concerning meal prep. It's meal prep, very, very important for long-term habits. It can be a game changer for so many people. Prepping meals ahead of time. Simple concept that can change your life. Basically, just prepping those meals ahead of time. So the meal prep session, we will share resources you can share with each other, your meal prep strategies. You can ask questions about that over there. We've also got a circadian rhythm and sleep section. We know a lot of people here have a disrupted circadian rhythm. Our sleep cycles are very important. Our wake restfulness cycles, the circadian rhythm, is of crucial importance. We're going to get deeper into that in the second and third weeks when we talk about meal timing and get deep on sleep optimization and circadian rhythm. So that's there for you guys to discuss and ask questions as well. And then we've got an off-topic section. Off-topic, just whatever you guys want to talk about. If you want to talk amongst yourselves about things, you can go in there. And we can add new text channels as they become relevant. Sometimes in certain groups, there's topics that come up over and over again that deserve their own text channel. So the text channels are there for you guys to chat in whenever you want. And you can tag each other, or you can tag Jessica and myself if you have questions, or if you just want to include us in the conversation in any of those text chat channels. To do that, you use the little @ symbol, the @ sign, and then you just type somebody's name. So if you, just to give you an example, if I were to come over here into the main chat and type @ it will show me a whole list of everybody in the server, and I can select anybody I want to tag in there. So you can tag people if you want to bring them into conversations, if you have something to tell them, something to share with them, or if you want to tag everyone, you just do @everyone. So @everyone will tag everybody in the Discord server. But, of course, I don't want to overuse that one. Don't want to be tagging everyone on everything. But if you've got a question that you want everybody to see, or if you've just got something that you want to share with everyone, feel free to use that. Feel free to use the @everyone, and everybody will be notified. So another thing, speaking of notifying, you might want to adjust your notification settings. So you can adjust your notifications for desktop, mobile, or email. Like if you want to be email notified, or if you just want to be notified on your desktop or on your mobile device, you can adjust those notifications. If you want to upload a profile picture, it seems most people already have profile pictures here. It's always nice and helpful if you can upload a picture of your face so we can know who we're talking to. Makes it a little bit more humanizing here on the dehumanizing machine world. So throw up an avatar, a picture of yourself in your profile if you'd like. If you don't want to, it's all good. It's really helpful to use the first name also in the screen name, like rather than using Snow Bunny 69777. Just using your name could be a little bit easier for us, but I see most people have almost everyone. Yeah, everyone's got their name on there, so that's not an issue on this one. I know a lot of people use Discord for gaming and stuff. They might have like a gamer name that's almost impossible to pronounce. So just to make it easier for other people and make it a little bit more personable, nice to have a picture and your name there. Let's see. You can also direct message if you have something that you want to ask us privately, right? If there's something that you don't want to share with the group, if there's something that's a little bit more personal and private, feel free to private message either myself or Jessica, and you can also direct message each other. So if there's somebody who you particularly get along with, you can always direct message each other. Also, if you've never used Discord before, there is a voice call feature and video call feature where you can video and voice call each other just like you could with Skype within Discord. So you can add each other as friends and contacts so that you can keep in touch with each other long term. We always recommend that. The reason we like doing this in the community setting is it allows us to support each other, and it creates kind of online networks and relationships that we can keep and maintain long term. So we definitely encourage you guys to interact with each other, tag each other, message each other, support each other, and that's what this is all about. There are also pinned posts in each one of these text chat channels. So if you come over to the main channel and there's a little icon of a pin at the top of the program, if you click on that, that will show all the pinned posts. Now we will pin when we do these live voice chats, we will record them and upload them later that evening, and we will make sure to pin those links, and we'll also pin links to anything else that we share here that is relevant and helpful to you. So the pinned posts, make sure to check those. If you miss out on a few days of lectures and of meetings, you can always jump into the pinned post section and see everything you've missed. Now, the way we structure this, we talked about, we do the lessons and lectures on Mondays. On Thursdays, we have a live Q&A. You also have access to what we call the hub. Now, the hub, which is on our website, and it's in your recap emails, and it's also, you can find that in the off topic. Why is that an off topic? That should be in main chat.
I didn't want it to get lost in main chat.
Maybe you just pin it.
Well, it's pinned in off topic.
Okay, so pinned in the off topic is the information on how to log into the hub. So that's on our website. You can find the link over there in off topic. That's where you have access to all the resources that we share with you. You have access to all the pinned posts as well. We're going to put all the links and everything that we share in that hub so that you can move at your own pace. Right? We know that some people are really excited to get going. We know some people are in and out of the office all week. You're not always able to attend these. The way we structure this is there's no pressure. If you're not able to attend these live voice chats, you have access to them. But what's cool about Discord, too, is you throw on some headphones, and while you're at work, you can actually join in on these live voice chats. If you're working in an office and multitasking, you can listen in at your own convenience. But if you can't make it, you can always listen later on, and you have full access to all the things that we share with you in the hub. So make sure you're getting our emails. Check the spam. Make sure the emails are not going to spam, because we'll also email you updates as well. And the link to that hub is in the emails that we've already sent out. So yeah, that is kind of the basic outline of the course so far. Jessica, have we received everybody's questionnaires?
There's a few more that I need.
Okay, well, there are a few people who haven't turned in the questionnaires yet. No worries. At your convenience, if you got some time, fill out those questionnaires and send them over. We love reading them. They really give us a good idea of what things to really focus on, and it's just helpful for you as well. The questionnaire is formulated in a way that it'll kind of help you to reflect on what it is you're doing, what your goals are, where you want to go, and where you want to take this. So we're here to support you. We're here to help you set up a solid foundation of nutritional habits that you can maintain long term, and we're here going beyond just nutrition as well, because there are other aspects that impact health dramatically, namely meal timing, the circadian rhythm, and our sleep cycle, and we're here to support you with all these things. So we're really happy to have you here. We're honored to have you here this month, and we are very, very excited to get started here. So today, we're going to start out with the basics. We're going to talk about the foundational principles behind a ketogenic or carnivorous ketogenic diet, and we're going to get into that now. We're going to talk about macronutrients. We're going to talk about the micronutrients, and we'll get into a little bit about plant toxins as well, but we'll talk about that throughout the course this month. And so today's lesson, we're going to start out talking about macros. So, ketogenic diet, a lot of people here looking to use a ketogenic or carnivorous or both, and they are both very, very compatible with each other. A ketogenic diet should be based on animal foods, and a carnivore diet should be based around animal fats. So a ketogenic diet should be based on mostly carnivorous foods, rather whether you're including plant foods or not. The foundation of a ketogenic diet is based around fats and protein. Right? So those are the two macronutrients that are the most important macronutrients. They're the only essential macronutrients, in fact. So what are macros? What are macronutrients? Macronutrients are nutrients that are available in large quantities in food. They are essential. Well, actually, there are two essential macronutrients. Kind of fudged that one. There are three macronutrients: protein, fat, and carbohydrate. And I already kind of spoiled this, but two of those macronutrients are totally and unavoidably necessary for human health and for the functioning of the human body. And those are protein and fat. Carbohydrate is non-essential, and we'll get into that a little bit deeper later on. So protein and fat are both unavoidably necessary no matter what type of diet you're on, whether you're on a high carbohydrate diet or a low carbohydrate ketogenic diet. You need protein and you need fat. Protein, essential amino acids, unavoidably important. We all have minimum protein requirements, meaning if we don't get sufficient protein, if we're not getting enough protein, our body's going to break down. Some of the functions that protein serves in the body is, first of all, building your tissues. Right? The physical structure of the body is made out of proteins. So we require these essential amino acids to keep the body built, to keep the body functioning. Right? Lack of protein will cause a decrease in bone mineral density, right? We need protein to maintain dense, strong bones. We need protein to maintain the collagen networks of our body. That collagen throughout our body is made up of specific amino acids that we can get in great quantities in animal foods. Right? So collagen, bone mineral density, hair, right? If we're not getting enough protein, we're going to experience hair loss. Thyroid function also can be impaired when we're not getting sufficient protein. Protein is the building block of many hormones, such as human growth hormone. We all require human growth hormone, and we build that out of proteins. We need protein for gaining or maintaining lean muscle tissue, which is of vital importance for metabolism. Right? The more lean muscle tissue we have, the more fat we're able to burn, the more mitochondria we will have. So we need protein. It is unavoidably necessary. The reason I start talking about protein as far as the macronutrients go is because protein is the building block of the body. Protein is the physical building block macro. Protein's not there for energy. Protein is there to build up the body and to bring satiety. So protein is very, very powerful for inducing satiety. We got minimum protein requirements. We all got to make sure we get enough of it. Now, protein is not an energy source. But protein can be used to create energy. Now let me explain that. There's a process called gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis is where our body breaks down certain amino acids and also certain fatty acids, namely like the backbone of fatty acids called glycerol. We can break down glycerol and certain amino acids like glutamine and other glucogenic amino acids. We can break those down into glucose because parts of the body require glucose. And that can be a little bit confusing for some people because a lot of people are told to fear protein. When you start looking at the ketogenic diet information, a lot of people end up under-eating on protein because they're afraid of gluconeogenesis because they're told that excess protein turns into glucose. Well, this is not true. Excess protein is not turned into glucose, but protein is turned into glucose as needed by the body. So the body does require some glucose. It doesn't require any dietary carbohydrate to make that glucose, but we've got this narrow bandwidth of glucose that is required in our blood, right? Your blood sugar levels. Your blood sugar goes too low, you die. So gluconeogenesis is this process that allows our body to go long periods of time without food. We don't need to be eating food all day. If we didn't have gluconeogenesis, we would not be able to get into ketosis. We would not be able to fast at all, meaning we would need a constant IV drip of glucose into our blood. Our body is so intelligently designed that we don't need that. So through the process of gluconeogenesis, we can break down certain amino acids and protein and the backbone of fatty acids into the glucose we require. So protein is required for this process, and if we're not getting sufficient protein in, we are not going to maintain bone mineral density, maintain thyroid function, being able to create hormones like HGH, gain or maintain lean muscle mass, or break down certain proteins into glucose through the process of gluconeogenesis, which is required. All right, so protein, there are minimum protein requirements. We need it. Too low protein will result in hunger, ravenous hunger. Too low protein will result in the breakdown of lean muscle tissue, the decrease in bone mineral density, and just not feeling optimal in general. Too much protein is actually pretty difficult to do. Right? Protein seems to induce satiety better than any other macronutrient. And of course, that protein always comes with fat, which is also important for satiety. All right? So naturally, in the natural world, natural sources of protein always come with fat. At a ribeye steak, it's going to be about 1 grams of fat to protein, which just happens to be the optimal ketogenic range, especially for fat loss. So very, very interesting. Fat and protein come coupled together in their natural forms. Too low protein equals ravenous hunger. Too much protein, pretty difficult to do. There's actually something called the protein leverage hypothesis, which is a very interesting hypothesis concerning hunger. Now, I know a lot of us in here in this group are dealing with intense hunger in our lives, right? The reason a ketogenic diet seems to work so well is that the hunger reduction and the reduction in cravings allows us to burn body fat really efficiently. So we want to leverage protein in order to keep hunger levels low. Now, the protein leverage hypothesis is this theoretical framework which scientists have posited that protein brings satiety better than any other macro. And if we get our minimum protein requirements in, we're not going to want to overeat on the other macronutrients. So they've done feeding studies where they restricted food for people for a period of time, and then they gave them access to like a buffet. Right? So imagine you didn't eat for 3 days. You walk into this buffet, and there's all kinds of stuff. Right? So they split this up into several different groups. They ended up finding that if you restrict protein on the refeeding portion of this experiment, that people will overeat. But if they get enough protein, they'll stop eating the carbs and they'll stop eating the fat. Right? So it's like if you fill up on the steaks and you get enough of the steaks, you're not going to care about the cakes. You're not going to reach for the cake. You're not going to reach for these other foods that you don't need. And you're not going to overeat. So getting enough protein in really helps to drop the hunger levels, bring satiety, and give the body the building blocks it needs to maintain lean muscle mass or even gain lean muscle mass, which many of us are going to want to do as we're looking to burn body fat or simply create a diet that we can maintain long term and enjoy long term. Because some of us in here might even be underweight. Right now, most of us are here for fat loss. Some people are in here looking to recover from, very nutrient deficient, like vegan diets where they haven't been getting enough protein, where they haven't been getting the fat soluble vitamins they need. But either way, protein is important. Whether you're trying to gain weight, lose weight, maintain weight, we've got minimum protein requirements. So how much protein do we need? I like to give a range of protein intake. The range, the easiest way to calculate it, and there's several different ways we can do this, but the easiest way to go about this is going to be giving you a range of protein intake. Now, I think most of this group, well, some of us might be looking at this in kilos, some of us might be looking at this in pounds. But let's start with in kilos. So you want to go for about 1.5 up to about 2.2 grams per kilogram of your goal weight. All right, so that means if you got 100 pounds to lose, you're going to want to calculate your protein requirements by your goal weight. So say your goal weight is 150 pounds. Or I'm sorry, say your goal weight is 70 kilos. So you're going to want to eat about 1.5 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of your goal weight. That will be sufficient protein. Now, it usually puts people in the range of anywhere between like 70 up to 120, maybe if you're really big and athletic, up to 150 grams of protein. Now, whether you're on the lower end or the higher end of that is going to depend on your individual context. Some people might be totally satiated and filled up hitting 1.5 gram per kilogram. Some people might be more active, might be trying to build some muscle, and might want to be on the higher end of that. Right now in pounds, if you're looking at it in pounds, you can go for about 0.6, or let's say 0.7 up to 1 gram per pound of your goal body weight. So 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of your goal body weight, that's going to be sufficient protein. It's not too much, it's not too little. Some people can go beyond that. If you're doing a carnivorous diet and you're ravenously hungry in the first few days, sometimes getting a little bit more protein can be fine. The goal is to get sufficient protein to bring satiety, to fuel the body with the building blocks it needs in order to maintain or gain lean muscle mass, and to keep our hormonal state balanced. So getting enough protein is crucial. That is the building block macro, and it's not there for energy. Now, the two energy macronutrients are fat and carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is totally optional. We don't have any dietary requirement for carbohydrate. And when we restrict carbohydrate, our body is going to burn fat. The body actually stores far more calories worth of fat in the body than it does carbohydrate. Even the most lean individual is going to have over 10,000 calories. Not even more, I think 100,000 calories. The leanest individual is going to have like 100,000 calories of fat stored on their body that they can tap into. Fat is a very, very efficient fuel source. In fact, when you burn fat, there's less oxidative stress, meaning there are less free radicals created, which can damage DNA. And fat is a very clean burning fuel. Fat is the energy macro that we're going to focus on here. Carbohydrates are optional. Fat is not. There are essential fatty acids that we all need, right? DHA, EPA, omega-3, 6, 9 fatty acids. These are required in the diet. Your body stores fat because it's really good at burning fat. Unfortunately, with the super elevated carbohydrate content of most of our diets, combined with the high polyunsaturated fat, the high vegetable oil intake that a lot of us are going with, this results in high levels of insulin resistance in a lot of the population. So that high carbohydrate intake combined with that high vegetable oil intake is a recipe for disaster, for fat gain, and for insulin resistance. If we restrict carbohydrate, we become more insulin sensitive. We become more able to burn fatty acids, and we can burn fat from our plate or from our body. So fat is the energy macro that we're focused on for energy. That fat we can burn from our plate or from our body. And the protein in the natural form always comes coupled with that fat. So your fat intake is going to depend on the context. When we're first starting out on a ketogenic or carnivorous diet, we want to make sure that we are getting sufficient fat. We don't want to be calorie restricting too much in the beginning. When we're first starting out the diet, we want to induce satiety and we want to get adapted to this diet. And when you start burning fat, it takes a little bit to adapt. It can take somebody anywhere from a few days to a few weeks to start feeling better and feel optimal on a ketogenic metabolism. So what goes on is the body is not able to tap into that fat when we've got a high carbohydrate intake. When we restrict the carbohydrates, we can start burning that fat. We're eating a ketogenic diet. In the beginning, we want to make sure to get enough protein and enough fat to bring satiety, to maintain lean muscle mass, and to not be hangry all the time. So a lot of people make the mistake of undereating or even overeating fat in the beginning of a ketogenic diet. Right? Some people aren't able to digest that fat very effectively because they're just not used to it. The body has to switch over its enzymatic processes. We got to create certain enzymes. We got to create certain compounds to break down fat and break down proteins. There are shifts in the gut microbiome. Right? These bacteria that are in our body that break down these foods, they got to shift over and they've got to change. So in the beginning, there is an adaptation period. During this adaptation period, we want to make sure we're getting adequate fat. So after you get your protein calculation, say you calculate you need about 100 grams of protein. When you're first starting out on keto or carnivore, we want to make sure that we're getting sufficient fat. Right? So at least 1 gram of fat per gram of protein when you're starting out. And you might want to go as high as 2 grams of fat per gram of protein. Right? So say you've got 100 grams of protein calculated as your protein requirements. Get that much protein in. Get at least 100 grams of fat. Most people will probably feel best at about 1.5 grams of fat per gram of protein in the beginning. So say you got 100 grams of protein, start at about 150 grams of fat. Once you get adapted to the diet, your body is going to tell you that it's satiated. Your body's going to tell you, I'm just not hungry. At that point, we can even lower the fat intake and burn more body fat. But in the beginning, we want to make sure to get sufficient fat, right? Give enough fat as energy so you can train your body to use it as fuel, and your body knows it's not starving. Right? Go for the nutrient-dense foods. Focus on the fatty cuts of meat. A fatty cut of meat is going to be the most nutritionally complete food you can eat on keto. Right? So the good news is most people are going to end up eating as much meat as they want on a ketogenic or a carnivorous keto diet. You restrict the carbohydrates. You focus on the fatty cuts of meat. You focus on the fatty proteins, the animal fats. And your hunger is going to drop. Your satiety is going to raise. You're going to feel more clear-headed. A lot of people end up feeling a little bit more emotionally and psychologically stable. Right? There are neurotransmitter shifts that happen not only in the brain, but the gut, which creates a lot of the neurotransmitters as well. So a ketogenic state will favor the production of what's called GABA. GABA is a very soothing neurotransmitter. It's an inhibitory neurotransmitter, as opposed to glutamate, which everybody knows about, MSG, monosodium glutamate. That actually triggers a lot of glutamate release in the brain. Glutamate is very excitatory. It'd be kind of stressful to have super high glutamate levels. GABA, very soothing. So a lot of people find that they have great improvements with anxiety, with depression, when they shift to a ketogenic diet, especially if they go more carnivorous. So there you go. Fat is the energy macro. Protein, the building block macro. Protein and fat together bring satiety. Get enough protein, anywhere from 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of your goal body weight, or about 1.5 up to 2.2 grams per kilogram of your goal body weight. And then fat, get at least 1 gram of fat per gram of protein to start. If you're hungry, go higher. Most people might feel optimal about 1.5 grams of fat per gram of protein, up to 2 grams of fat per gram of protein. Right? If you're trying to do like a more of a medical ketogenic diet, if you're not trying to lose weight, but if you're doing this for a medical reason, you might want to be higher on that fat, 2 grams of fat per gram of protein. If you're trying to gain weight, you're obviously going to want more of the energy macro, which is fat. But that's as simple as we can make it, right? We want to keep it simple, guys. Protein and fat, required. Carbohydrate, unnecessary. So carbohydrate, if you are going to include plant foods in the diet, which we'll talk about that in a minute as well. Carbohydrates are not an energy macro, or not a required energy macro. Right? We're not looking at carbs as a source of energy. So if you're going to eat carbohydrates, you're going to want to be going for the more low carbohydrate veggies. Right? Things like cucumbers, celery, summer squashes, zucchini, leafy greens, lettuce. All these very, very low carbohydrate. You're going to want to keep those carbs under like 30 grams of net carb. Right? So if you're having like avocado, you might see an avocado has 12 grams of total carb. What is it? Was it 20 grams of total carb?
Total carb, yeah.
Yeah, so avocado might have like 20 grams of total carb. How much of that is
Like
fiber?
4 net grams.
There you
Four
go.
net
And about 4 grams of net carbs, because most of that is indigestible fiber.
So 16 grams fiber.
So that'll be about 16 grams of fiber, 20 grams total carbs. The net carbs are only going to be 4 grams. So use net carbs if you're using whole unrefined foods. But if you have gut issues, if you have sensitivity to a lot of foods, if you're dealing with major autoimmune conditions, skin issues, chronic inflammatory state, arthritis, it's highly likely that you'll feel better on more of a zero-carb approach. All right, now, a ketogenic diet can be carnivorous. A carnivorous diet should be ketogenic. So we want to look at animal foods as the basis of the diet. Whether you're including plants or not, look at animal foods as the basis of the diet. I understand that a lot of us might be sensitive to some of these plant foods. Fiber is not this incredible, amazing health food that we've all been sold on. In fact, people who have constipation, people with chronic idiopathic constipation, find that the complete removal of fiber actually brings total remission of the symptoms, where this is the opposite of what we've been told. So I'm going to put a study here. I'll put this over in the main chat. You guys will like this one. Let me find this study. Jessica, do you have the link? Oh, here it is.
Which one?
Here we go. So over here in the main chat, I'm going to post this interesting study here. Stopping or reducing fiber intake reduces constipation and its associated symptoms. So fiber, not the health panacea that we've been sold on. In fact, fiber is unnecessary. And a lot of us might do far better without that fiber. So if you've dealt with constipation, gut issues, autoimmune conditions, food sensitivities, going more towards a carnivorous diet can be very helpful. So focusing on the fatty meat, right? Ribeyes, T-bones, fatty ground beef. You can get the 70% or the 80%. You can add fats like butter. You can add ghee, tallow. I'm getting suet from a butcher, which is the fat around the kidney, or trimmings. Right? The animal fats always going to be superior to the plant fats, although things like olive oil can be fine. Some people can tolerate these very well. But those animal fats, far more nutrient dense, have a lot more fat-soluble vitamin content, and are more nourishing than those plant-based fats. So, carbohydrates are optional. Fiber is optional. Mama told you to eat your broccoli because it's going to make you so healthy. Your mommy loved you. She thought she was doing right, but she might not have had the whole picture about the greens. Right now, some of us might be very sensitive to some of these anti-nutrients. So I'm going to talk about one of these briefly today, and then we can get a little bit deeper into some of this stuff later on. I'm going to talk a little bit about oxalate. So, one of the most highly offensive foods to the human body that are being consumed in high quantities these days are oxalates. Now, spinach is one of the highest oxalate foods. It's also one of these foods that everybody tells you is so great for a ketogenic diet because allegedly it has loads of potassium and it has some magnesium as well and loads of calcium, right? So it's got some of these electrolytes. Unfortunately, it also has what's called oxalic acid. Now, oxalic acid will bind up to calcium, will bind up to potassium, will bind up to other minerals and metals. And when it binds up to calcium, it creates what's called calcium oxalate. Calcium oxalate can bioaccumulate throughout the body, especially in the kidneys, and create kidney stones. It can also accumulate in collagen in places where we've got chronic pain. So a lot of people, if they've got arthritic symptoms, chronic pain, chronic inflammation, find that removal of oxalates completely changes their life. And so if you've had sensitivities to a lot of these foods, completely avoiding oxalates can be a very, very good idea. And for most people, minimizing oxalate can be a good idea also. So foods like spinach, certain types of kale can be very high in oxalate. Almonds also, right? That almond butter, super high in oxalate, and other anti-nutrients. Like almonds also have a lot of phytates. Phytates are there binding up the minerals in these seeds to prevent them from being digested and eaten. You can minimize some of these phytates by soaking and sprouting nuts, or you can just avoid the nuts. Right? Getting those foods from animal sources is always going to be superior. Right? So focusing on nutrient-dense, unrefined whole foods, animal-based sources of proteins and fats, getting enough of that protein and enough of that fat and keeping those carbs low is the name of the game. So the diet is based around proteins and fats. We don't want to eat the lean protein because we want to get that fat with the protein. We want to be burning fat for fuel. In the beginning, fat's going to be pretty high as we get adapted. If you're looking to burn body fat after you get adapted and your hunger drops low, then we can drop down on the fat a little bit and burn more fat from the body rather than from the plate. And that's the name of the game. So, last thing we're going to talk about today in today's lesson are electrolytes. So something that happens when you get into that ketogenic state, when you drop the carbohydrates. When the body is low in insulin, when insulin levels are low, the body gets triggered to drop water weight. With that water usually goes some of the electrolytes. So in the beginning of a ketogenic and carnivorous diet, it can be pretty important to correct for that. Making sure to get enough salt is the way to go about it. Right? So you're probably going to find you crave salt. Salt your food to taste. You're going to find that you probably want a lot more salt than you did before when you were consuming carbohydrates. Sodium helps to volumize the blood. When the body gets too low on sodium, it's going to start pulling water from the blood in order to maintain that narrow bandwidth that is required of these electrolytes within the blood. So if you get low on electrolytes, your body's going to dump water from the blood, meaning the heart's going to have to work harder to pump that thin blood through the body. And we want to avoid this. So if you're low on sodium, you might experience heart palpitations, lethargy, lightheadedness, fatigue, tiredness. Make sure to get enough sodium, and that can help you to minimize that. Now, one good way, a lot of people like to have broth, right? Having some bone broth, making broth. There will be some other electrolytes in there as well. And you can salt that broth. That's a great way of getting the electrolytes in. Some people like to use like bouillon cubes. It's a little bit more processed, but those can be useful, especially if you're traveling. But just simply salting your food, getting enough salt is crucial. So try to get in at least like a half teaspoon of salt on each meal. Most people are going to find that around 1 teaspoon of salt per meal is helpful. Sometimes in between meals, if you're feeling a little bit lethargic, lightheaded in the beginning, just having some salt, just tossing some salt back. Maybe take a quarter teaspoon or half teaspoon of salt and then chase it with some water. You can get rid of those symptoms of electrolyte depletion. Now, as you get adapted, it becomes less important. You're obviously still going to want to salt your food, but correcting for the electrolytes, especially in the beginning, can be pretty important. So if you've got fatigue, midday lull, take a little bit of salt. Low salt can cause edema, swelling as you pull water from the blood. Right? The body will pull water from the blood and deposit it in other areas. Like a lot of ladies will get it around the ankles. Simply getting enough sodium can make sure that that's not happening. Now, the other electrolytes, potassium, magnesium, and calcium, these are all found in decent quantities in animal flesh as well. Right? So if you're eating a steak, especially if you're eating it more rare, you're going to be getting plenty of potassium. There's a lot of potassium in foods like sardines. A lot of magnesium in these foods as well. But some people find that a little bit of supplemental potassium and magnesium can be useful. It's not necessary, but some people like to supplement with a little bit of potassium and magnesium. And if you're going to do that, using a little bit of magnesium citrate, potassium citrate, can be useful, but start really low. You don't need high doses of it, and most people won't need it at all. Simply making sure to get enough salt, making sure to get in those nice fresh meats will help us to correct for those electrolytes so that we are not getting depleted. Now, if you sweat a lot, if you do saunas, if you do a lot of heavy exercise, using a little bit more salt will be necessary. So before a heavy sweat or after a heavy sweat, increase the salt intake. If you want to use a little bit of potassium citrate, magnesium citrate, you can get those in bulk and take those. Don't take more than like a quarter teaspoon of the potassium citrate to start. All right, start low. Magnesium citrate, it's pretty inert. It's not going to cause great gastric distress in a lot of people, like other forms of magnesium, such as magnesium oxide, will do. So avoid magnesium oxide. If you're going to use magnesium, use like a magnesium citrate, magnesium glycinate, magnesium gluconate. All those pretty bioavailable and pretty good. So if you're getting leg cramps, lightheadedness, lethargy, you could be low on the electrolytes. Easiest way to correct for that is just getting enough salt. If you're not getting enough salt, your body's going to also waste the other electrolytes. So get the sodium in, salt your food to taste. You might find that you need far more salt than you did before when you were eating carbohydrates. That's normal. You're going to have a very, very strong taste for salt and strong desire for salt. That is normal. Your body's telling you it needs that sodium. So one of the great things about keto is it drops your hunger low, helps you to manage that hunger, keeps your blood sugar levels stable, keeps your insulin levels low, and this makes it really easy to burn fat. And so if we focus on making sure that our well-formulated ketogenic and carnivorous diet is focused on foods, whole unrefined foods, right? Not a bunch of Quest bars, not a bunch of almond butters, right? Focusing on nutrient-dense unrefined foods, especially those animal foods, our hunger levels will drop. We'll be able to burn body fat and dietary fat very effectively. Inflammation levels will drop, and we'll feel generally better. So yeah, that's the electrolytes, that's the macros, and that's the basic foundation of the diet. We're focusing on the animal fats, we're eating the steaks, we're skipping the cakes, and we're creating a solid foundation of nutritional habits that are enjoyable and that we can maintain long term. So if the goal is fat loss, remember, you can burn fat from the plate or from the body. When you start out, you want to definitely give sufficient fat on the plate to bring satiety so that you're not forcing your body to burn all body fat, because it might be a little stressed out. Your body's got to adapt to the diet. It's got to create more what are called mitochondria, which are the little energy-producing nodules in the cell. Those mitochondria are required for burning fat. So your body's got an adaptation period where it's got to make more mitochondria. Might feel a little bit lethargic, a little bit low energy for a few days. You might have some carb cravings, but those cravings completely subside after a few days to a few weeks, depending on the individual. And if you focus on getting in enough of the fat and the protein from high quality, especially animal-based sources, you're going to feel better really quickly. So remember, we're looking at long-term habit formation here. We're not just looking at like a quick fad diet. We want to make sure that physiologically your body is taken care of, that you're getting all the nutrients you need, which you can get all the nutrients you need in their most bioavailable, digestible, and easily assimilable form from animal foods. And we want to make sure that we're setting up realistic goals as well. So if you got 100 pounds to lose, understand that this is a long-term thing, right? 100 pounds doesn't just come off in a few weeks. I know you see the pictures of before and after pictures online, people on Instagram. Don't worry about that. Focus on your own situation. All right, consistently weigh yourself under the same conditions. You're trying to go for fat loss, taking a daily weigh-in in the morning under the same conditions each day. Super helpful. Also, waist measurements can be helpful as well. Remember, there are non-scale victories, right? If you're completely addicted to ice cream and you've got no cravings for it anymore, and you're able to go a whole day, to go weeks without even thinking about that crap, that's a major non-scale victory. I know fat loss is the goal for a lot of us, and it just can't come fast enough. But realize that there are other victories. Like, we got to create the psychological and physiological conditions that will allow us to burn that fat long term. That'll allow us to get to where we need to go. So we're working on long-term habit formation here. We want to set up realistic goals, not just short-term goals. We got to look at long-term habit formation here. So we're all here to help. Everybody's here to support you. Jessica and myself, you have full access to your coaches here. If you have questions, you can send it to us in private message. We try to answer private messages at least once per day. Right? We try to jump into this Discord and make sure everything's flowing smoothly. We jump in here in the live voice chat 2 times per week. And we're here to help you. So support each other. If you've got questions that you want to ask in private, again, feel free to private message us. And we've got this whole month to work on this. So don't be in a hurry. We've got 4 weeks to solidify these habits. We've got 4 weeks to troubleshoot. And we're looking at creating the long-term situation that we can maintain and enjoy. So if you want to lose body fat, if you want to manage your lifestyle and your diet, it takes long-term habit formation, not just short-term changes. We've got to look at the long term. So that's what we're here for. We're here to help you avoid these stumbling blocks, the common stumbling blocks. We're here to help you formulate the diet properly. And we're here to support you. And we're here to troubleshoot whatever it is we need to troubleshoot. So that's the end of the lesson for today. So we're going to open up the floor now. If you guys got any questions, feel free to jump in. We're going to start at the top of the list here. We got Adam up at the top of the list. Adam, can you hear us? Feel free to unmute yourself. Jump in. We can talk about your situation if you got any questions. If you just want to introduce yourself. If not, all good. Some people might be in the car or at work. Some people might be a little bit more shy. There he is. What's up, Adam?
Hey, Zor. Hey, how's it going?
Great, man. Good to hear your voice. How you doing today?
Pretty good. Not too bad.
Right on, man. I've got your questionnaire right here. Let's see, you're in Ohio. Looking to lose some body fat, right?
Yep, that's pretty much it.
But you've already lost some, right? Like you mentioned, your highest point you were 300, now you're 260. So you're down. How did you lose that 40 pounds? How did you drop down from 300 to 260? What did you do? You guys hear me?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you. I think you were just muted when you're talking. Yeah, how'd you drop that 40 pounds, man? Congratulations on the progress you made so far. How did you do it?
All right, sorry. I think I need to push a button here to talk. I didn't know that.
Okay.
Yeah, first I remember the very first thing I did was I cut out sodas like a long time ago, basically, and then more and more just cut out more and more processed foods. And then eventually I was still eating pretty bad though, and my like acid reflux would get so bad like even like Zantac wouldn't help fix it all.
Yeah.
And so I just started researching on that, and then first I found like slow carb through Tim Ferriss, and then eventually keto, which funny, the first person I found on keto was Jimmy Moore, and I was very skeptical, like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I'm not buying it from this guy, but then eventually I found you and like Dr. Volek and Penny.
Nice.
And then yeah, I just kept getting more and more into it.
Yeah. So you've already been doing kind of a keto-ish program. You've already started.
Yeah, mostly yeah, but then like the past couple months I just got like way off track.
Yeah. Right on.
And it's just like with like sliding downhill bad, but yeah, I need to
Yeah, it happens, man. We start. The thing with old habits is, well, they always say old habits die hard, right? Well, it takes like 21 days to kind of rewire the central nervous system into any new habit, whether that be a movement pattern, a dietary pattern, any habit of behavior. It takes time to rewire our brain, and it's so easy to jump right back into the old ones, right? Like you have something a little bit off plan, have like, I don't know, some cookies or something, a little bit of cake. And then it's so easy to spiral out and to go right back into the old habits. It's like it's like there's a path through the woods that's been treaded so many times that you've walked this path, this trail through the woods so many times, and it's like it's all we know. But if we set up the habits to where you can maintain them long term, if you set up some sustainable habits that you can stick with, the longer you go with this, the less you're going to feel the draw to the off limits stuff. You're not going to feel that pull so much as you get dialed in and as you get set up. So let's take a look at like the macros and kind of make sure that you're getting enough protein in first of all. and enough fat. But then we don't want to do too much fat because you want to burn body fat. So you mentioned breakfast, you're doing like eggs and salt. Dinner was steak. So, real simple animal food, high fat animal foods. That's what we want to stick with. You're definitely on track with that. But how long have you been doing this way? It sounds like you're going towards more of a carnivore style. How long have you been doing this?
So I kind of just I've kind of been doing it, but then like I would fall off track with like late at like I would like stay up too late, and then with like eating candy and stuff, and like
Yeah.
that was kind of just like taking away any like progress I might have been making.
Yeah.
But like my main food sources for probably a month or two have been mostly animal foods. Before that, even mostly animal foods with more vegetables added in from keto stuff.
Okay. How tall are you again?
About 5'10", 5'11".
Okay. Cool. Jessica, will you have me a pen? All right. Here's what I want you to do. Let's try to get you in at about 100 and let's go for like 140 grams of protein.
Okay.
And about 140 grams of fat. Equal grams, protein, and fat. That should be very satiating. I don't think you're going to feel a lot of hunger with that. What we want to do is let's not worry so much about fat loss for the first few days, maybe even the first couple weeks. Let's get concerned with the late night snacking, right? Let's try to induce satiety as well as we can. Now, we're going to talk about circadian rhythm and optimizing meal timing in the coming weeks, but we'll give you a little bit of a teaser. I want to make sure that you get your last meal in. Get your last meal in before 7:30 at night if you can. Try to finish that meal before like 7:30 so you're not eating too late, but definitely have like a dinner to where you're filled up and you're not starving at night, so you're not inclined to go for the candy, right? We want to kind of stomp out the hunger before it really manifests. So let's get the last meal in around 7:30 or so. Go for 2 meals a day. I think 2 meals, you could do 3 meals a day if you want. If you want to break up into 3 meals, that's up to you. 2 or 3 meals. Try to get breakfast in within like 2 to 3 hours of waking up. All right, so get breakfast. Breakfast within. I mean, if you can eat breakfast within an hour of waking up, that's great. But some people, they're just not hungry yet. You want to get breakfast in. You want to tell your body, here's the fuel source. Here's some fat. We've got enough protein. Everything's okay. The micronutrients are taken care of. We're eating nutrient-dense foods. Eggs, meat, minimally processed, unrefined animal foods. Go for about 140 protein and 140 fat each day. You can break that up into 2 equal-sized meals if you want, or you can do 3 meals. That's up to you. But let's get that satiety in place and make sure that you're getting the micronutrients taken care of. So you're not going to crave the candy if we can time these meals correctly and if we can get sufficient calories in from protein and fat. And that's the goal for now.
Right, yeah, sounds good. I've also been just forcing myself to actually go to bed at a reasonable time.
That's
helped too, Pat.
Yeah, and I really want to focus on that a little bit more in the coming weeks. But definitely, getting to bed early. A few strategies they'll throw out there. Another little spoiler for the coming weeks, but a few strategies we'll throw out there is black out the room. I don't know if you've got nice curtains in the room. Make sure it's as dark as you can get it in there. If there's even if it's like a little alarm clock that's got a digital display and it's giving off light, that can affect our sleep cycle. So we want to avoid artificial light at night. Try to avoid computer time, tech time at night. Read a book. If you've got a fireplace, that's one of the best things to do. Another thing to look into, which we'll talk about in the coming weeks, would be red light therapy. So exposing yourself to certain frequencies of red and near infrared light in the evening can improve melatonin production a lot. So yeah, forcing yourself to get to bed early, great. But if you just lay down and you're not tired, or if you're playing with your phone in bed, it's going to be a lot harder to sleep, right? So avoid tech at night, avoid the artificial light, get it as dark as possible, and lights out. That's the best advice I can give you on that one. A nice bath or something. If you got candles that you can use. Natural sources of light, or just like a red incandescent light bulb, that's going to be better than those artificial blue lights. So let's kind of focus on reducing the artificial light exposure, chill out at the end of the day, and if you don't take melatonin, do you?
No.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we want to avoid supplementation whenever possible, and as far as sleep goes, there's no supplement that's going to give us good sleep. So get the micronutrients in, make sure you're well fed, and we should be good. But it's really nice to meet you, man. I'm glad you're on the path you're on. I see, you made a lot of progress already, and we're excited to see where we go with this.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Excited to start it.
All right, man. Adam, nice to meet you. Let us know if you need anything. Feel free to private message us whenever you need. And, of course, you've got our support. You've got the support of everybody in the group. We're all here in this together this month. We're super excited to get going with you. So have a good one, Adam.
Yep, thanks, you too.
All right. We got Bart next. What's up, Bart? Feel free to unmute if you can hear me.
Hey,
How's it
can you
going?
hear me now?
Yes, sir. I can hear you pretty well.
All right, I'm doing well. Glad to be here for sure. Looking to get started again. I had done keto in the past last year or so. I was doing pretty well with it. Had some weight loss, working out, felt good, kind of fell hard. Trying to get started again. I find is just trying to get it all in as far as like meal planning and cooking, and
Yeah.
doesn't take much. The balance there, and then I kind of spiral out of control and go back to the convenience foods and order a pizza.
Yep.
I'm a single dad, so I have 3 kids. 2 of them are teenagers. My youngest is 11, so that's where I find the trouble is everything fit in and being everywhere and driving my kids everywhere and cooking dinner and meal planning and shopping and all of that. So that's where I really struggle. But yeah, I'm looking to get back to it and hopefully, figure out how to keep it sustainable, because like where I was last year to how I feel now, I put on probably about 25 pounds
Yeah.
from last time. And, I feel it. I still am working out and running. I do CrossFit like 2 to 3 days a week now. I was 3 to 4 last year, but I'll feel it in my joints and everything just from the extra weight. So
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to back on the wagon and dropping that weight again.
All right, man. Well, yeah, busy lifestyle, that can make it really difficult to stay on track, especially if you've already got the habits set up. The convenience foods, those always come into play. And if you got teenagers, they love those kind of foods, right? So they're always trying to eat that kind of stuff, and it can be real difficult. So we're going to be sharing a lot of meal prep resources with you. Jessica's actually compiled quite a few really, really good, crucial and vital resources for meal preparation, pre-prepping foods, and stuff like that. So she's going to put the first meal prep lesson in the meal prep section actually right now. So Bart, you're going to have access, and everyone else listening, you're going to have access to the first meal prep lesson, which is a really good one. What's this one called?
The first one we have a keto series and we have a carnivore series, right?
They can't hear you.
I have a keto series meal prep and a carnivore diet meal prep, and we're just going to start with breakfast or first meal of the day. So I'll put those in there right now, and they're PDFs that you can download. And if you want to jump ahead, the full document is located on the hub.
So some little tips that we can give first off is, as far as meal prep goes, mass producing food, right? Like make a meal that's got 4 servings so that you can share some with your kids. Make extra of each one, and then you can package it up in a to-go container. You can bring it with you anywhere. I mean, there's a lot of foods that are very easy to eat at room temperature, like meatballs, burger patties, stuff like that. You can always eat those on the go. Hard-boiled eggs, that's another really good one to have around. And just finding some good staples that you can eat in a pinch, that you can have pre-prepared. Fish, things like sardines, and that come in a can. Foods like avocado, really, really good for on-the-go, quick, easily accessible foods like that. That's what we want to focus on. I'm not sure if we got your questionnaire yet, Bart. Jessica says she hasn't gotten your questionnaire. So whenever you got a few minutes, I know you're a busy dude, go ahead and fill out that questionnaire, send it our way, and yeah, we want to get you set up on a plan that you can stick with. So we want to make sure you're getting enough protein and enough fat to keep you satiated, to where you're not having to reach for the comfort foods, reach for the convenient foods. I think a good idea for you probably be to get breakfast in when you wake up in the morning, right? Whenever you're around the house, whenever you have a solid block of time that you can consistently get a meal in, that's going to be ideal, right? We want to feed before you get super hungry. We want you to be fed before the temptation to have a quick meal out happens, right? So having a good breakfast, consistently getting a good dinner at home. I don't know what your evenings look like, but we've got to look at your schedule, see what it looks like, and kind of start pecking at it from there. But I think getting a good breakfast in might be a good place to start for you.
All right.
So like
Yeah, I
breakfast.
mean, I think evening definitely where I struggle the most because, like, I'll work out after work, not getting home till about 7:45, quarter to eight,
Yeah.
and then both my kids that are home, I have a gymnast, and then my son does Taekwondo. So there's nights when I don't get home till 9:30, and I'm not even eating till like quarter to 10.
And
So
and
I
that
don't boast.
Yeah, yeah, and that kind of disrupts the sleep cycle a little bit too, right? When we have to eat so late, I mean, first of all, you got to prep the food, and maybe 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock would be a time when you'd be winding down. It'd be ideal that you can, maybe relax then. But look, we got to work within the schedule. We got to do what we can. If you're not able to rearrange the schedule or get a meal in earlier in the evening, sometimes just having the food ready. Like if having something really simple that you can make, whether it be burger patties or a steak or something that takes 5 minutes, that takes minimal time to prepare, that's going to be ideal. So let's focus on getting the breakfast in. If we can fill up earlier in the day, then you're not going to have so many problems with the evening meal, right? If that evening meal, if it's not going to happen till 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, it might even be better to have a really big breakfast, right? Like 7 o'clock in the morning, have a big ass breakfast, and then maybe have a large lunch. If you eat the majority of those calories early in the day, you can quell that hunger and you can quench it before it even happens, and you can make it to where you're not hungry at night. So that might be with your schedule. That might be better. Like when you got kids, they can eat whenever. You got kids, they're growing, they're trying to they're trying to put weight on. So I mean, you're always trying to feed the kids. It's different as we age, we don't need to eat as much as them, and when we're tied in with their eating schedule, it gets confusing to our body. So yeah, maybe let's just get you eating earlier in the day if that's the only open times you've got within the day to eat. That might be ideal. How t-
Shot. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask how tall are you and what's your current weight?
I'm 6'1" and I'm about 300.
Okay, so you're probably gonna want to go for about 150 grams of protein. And like when we get started, I'd go for about 150 protein and 150 fat. So about equal grams of protein and fat because you got a lot of weight to lose. You're gonna be real satiated at that. We could probably make it if you get enough food in the early day to where you're not hungry in the evening. So let's focus on that. Let's try to get big breakfast in with like at least each meal you want to have at least 50 grams of protein, right? If you're getting 150 a day and you're doing that 3 meals, 50 grams of protein a meal. If you're doing 2 meals, do like 75 grams of protein per meal. That's like almost a pound of meat per meal, and that would bring you a lot of satiety, right? So let's focus on the fatty meats. Try to get in some good animal foods in the early day, eggs, meat. You can cook them in butter. We want to focus on satiety and on getting the bulk of the calories in before, I'd say, before 4 o'clock in the afternoon, if you can. Is that possible?
Sure. Yeah, I think so.
All right. Cool. Cool, let's go for that, man.
Oh,
Go ahead.
quick question about that though. So, as far as working out in the evening, you often hear like you should have recovery food after you work out. Is there any validity to that? As long as you're meeting your macros during the day, does it really matter if you eat after you work out?
Great question. All right, well, if you're getting your macros in during the day, you're already going to have those elevated amino acids, those elevated branched chain amino acids in the blood. This whole thing about the anabolic window after a workout, like, oh, if you work out, you got to have a meal within an hour or you're going to lose muscle. That's BS. So if you have a meal early in the day, you're still going to have all that protein. It's still going to be digesting 3, 4, 5 hours later. You're still going to have it circulating. You're going to have those amino acids available to you for the next 24 hours. So as long as you're getting a meal in within like 24 hours of a workout, you're going to recover. So we don't need to worry about eating right after the workout. If we've get in the habit of that, it makes it really easy, right? Like if every time we get in a workout, then we're having a meal right after, every time we have a workout, we're going to automatically be looking for that meal. So we can train ourselves to be hungry at different times. We can train ourselves to not be hungry at certain times as well. And if we get your meals in early in the day and you work out late in the day, you're not going to miss out on muscle gains. You're not going to miss out on recovery. You're going to be totally fine. So good question, man.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Yeah, anything you need, let us know. We know it can definitely be difficult. Single dad, 3 kids, active lifestyle, busy all the time. It can be hard to get the meals in at the right time, but let's focus early in the day meals and see if we can just stomp out that hunger so where you're not even hungry at night. You feed the kids at night. If they want to eat pizza in front of you, they can do it and you won't be tempted. That's the goal.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, yeah, we look forward to getting to know you, man. I think you're making the right decision as far as getting back on track before it gets out of control. And you got some weight to lose, and it comes off really quickly in the beginning. The last few months and maintaining it, that's the battle, right? So we want to create a situation to where you can maintain these habits, and that's what we're going to work on this month. Let's really ingrain those habits into your central nervous system. Let's train yourself when to get hungry and when to feed, and you'll be good. And make sure to get enough salt in, because if you're doing a lot of CrossFit, you're going to be doing a lot of sweating, and sodium's very important. Things like broth would be a good idea too. Lots of collagen to help repair the joints and stuff. CrossFit can be, depending on which gym, right? Some of them are pretty crazy, but it can be really harsh on the body. So we want to make sure not to push too hard. As we age, it is easier to get injured, as we all unfortunately realize as we age.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right on, man. Your kids are 11 and 16, is that what you said?
And then my oldest is actually 18, so she's actually a freshman in college now. And then I've got a 16 and an 11-year-old at home.
Wow, man, that's crazy. I can only imagine, like, when Ariana goes, she's 18. Oh man, yeah, I was a pain in the ass when I was 16 and 18, so I feel for you.
I was too, so I guess I'm paid for now.
Yeah, so you can relate to your kids at least. Right on, man. All right,
Absolutely.
cool. Well, hey, anything you need, let us know. We're glad you're here, and we're here to help you dial it in. And if you have any questions, any concerns, just shoot us a message or tag us in whichever section of the chat you want. We're here for you, man.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks.
All right, Bart. Nice to meet you, man.
Good to meet you too.
All right, now we got Elsa. Elsa's over in California. How's it going, Elsa? Can you hear me? Yeah, I got her questionnaire right in front of me. Elsa, Jessica tells me that you were looking for your macros. You want to clarify the macros. If you can hear me, feel free to unmute yourself. You might need to give access to your device to the microphone. You might need to go into the settings. If you're on an iPhone or an Android device, you might need to go into the settings and tell it to allow you to use the microphone, and then you'll be able to talk. But let's see. What particularly did she ask you, Jessica?
Just based on that.
Right on.
What her macros should be. She's going for fat loss. She's been gaining
Cool.
weight on Carnivore.
All right, Elsa's been gaining some weight. She wants to make sure her macros are dialed in. So let's take a look here. Got your questionnaire in front of me, Elsa. I don't hear you. Here's what I'm gonna do, Elsa. We're gonna move on to Jesse. Feel free to unmute, or if you're having trouble getting getting access to the mic. Oh, there you go. Now you're here. Hello, Elsa. I heard you for a second. You popped in and then you popped out. I've got your questionnaire in front of me, but there's a few things I want to clarify with you before I set up the macros. So maybe, all right, Elsa, maybe it's gonna be better if you DM us. We'll set you up with the macros. If you're trying to figure out the mic, DM Jessica and she can help you with the settings right now. All right, let's Jesse, if you want to jump in. How's it going, Jesse? I see that you. Yeah, there you go.
Am I being heard?
Yeah, you're heard.
All right.
How are you?
Cool. Very cool.
How's it going, Jesse? Oh, Elsa's.
It's do we want to go back to Elsa?
If her
We can
mic.
get her working. Gotta go fix.
Yeah, if she gets her mic working, we'll jump back to Elsa. If not, we'll wait. We'll come. All right. It seems like we haven't gotten microphone clarity yet. So let's figure out the situation with Jesse. How's it going, Jesse?
Oh, it's pretty good overall. Yeah, I've lost about 100 pounds. I started at around 240. I don't have my form filled out. I kind of dropped the ball on that,
No
but I'll get it
worries.
to you as soon as possible.
It's okay. It's
Um,
okay.
but yeah, I started around 240. I'm at 140-ish right now. I kind of teeter 140, 143, and I'm stuck. Been stuck for a while, months and months. Not that I'm really trying hard to lose weight anymore because I just feel like I've improved my health so much that I'm kind of living the life and staying keto and just, just
Yeah.
enjoying all of the fruits of my labor a little bit. But I kind of feel like it's time to get moving. I have about I would say another 15 pounds of fat loss to go. So if the
Yeah.
scale doesn't say 125, but I have about that much fat loss, if the muscles continue to build, I'm cool with that. I don't care about the number. I just know I have about 15 pounds left of junk to get rid of.
Great, great. Yeah. So we don't want to become hyper fixated on the scale, especially when we're having like such a major victory, right? I mean, you've already congratulations, you've lost a lot of weight already. I mean,
Thank you.
that's amazing. I'm
I lost my
super
entire daughter.
you
I lost the entire community. Yeah.
right? You lost the equivalent of more than what both of my kids combined weigh. You lost
Yeah,
more than that
right?
already. So that's I mean, you
Yeah,
must
I have a
feel
13-year-old daughter who weighs 100 pounds. I asked her if I can put her on my back and then hike over to the exercise park and just see what it feels like to carry that weight again, but
right.
she's not in for it.
She does not want to
She's like,
piggyback
Mom, that
ride.
looks stupid. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I'm 13. I don't need piggyback rides. Oh man.
Right.
That's so cool. All right, so 100 pounds lost, major victory. Of course, we're human. We seek perfection, right? So like we want,
Yeah.
even though that 100 pounds is gone, I can totally relate. Like you want to get to where you want to go. You see there's another 15 pounds or so of fat on you and you want that gone. Um, I
Yeah, just
wouldn't
try to clean it
consider.
up a little bit.
Yeah, let's clean it up. Let's dial it in. I would not consider the last few months of weight stability to be a failure at all. It's not like you've gained weight back. You've been maintaining it. You've been
Exactly.
feeling good. So like you've gotten there's been nothing but victories so far, and you're standing on the new platform that you've just secured for yourself, and you're holding it down. So this is really good. Now let's dial it in. First question I'd like to ask you though is like how much vegetables, nuts, and yeah, how much vegetables and nuts and plant foods are you eating?
I wouldn't say that I'm carnivore. I'm probably kind of close.
Yeah.
So I eat occasional vegetable. The little handful of nuts here and there could probably go, but I wouldn't say that it's like every day or even every other day. It's just once every couple days I'll maybe grab a couple of nuts or something like that. I know that cheese. If I could just live on cheese for the rest of my life, I'd be happy. That would be so cool.
You sound like my
So
daughter.
find me a way to make that healthy, and I'll do that.
All right, look, cheese
But
is
no, most
awesome. Cheese is an amazing food. It's also what's really cool about cheese is that it tastes so good. What's not so cool about cheese is that it tastes so good that you can't stop eating it.
right? Yeah.
So, all right. Well, now that you say that, I
Cheese
think
is my nemesis.
yeah, it's your best friend too. So like, look, you don't have to give up cheese
Yeah.
forever. Don't look at this as like this is a forever thing. I will never enjoy cheese again. Don't tell yourself that. But for now, let's chop the cheese. Let's put it on the chopping block.
Okay.
Let's dial this in. Let's go for mostly fat and protein. Let's go for mostly animal foods. Focus on eggs, steaks, fatty cuts of meat, slow cooked meat, bone marrow, stuff like that. As far as fat sources go, butter on the steak as a fat source. How tall are you?
I'm 5'5".
Okay, so you're 5'5". I think in your situation, we're gonna probably want to go for about. Let's try to hit around at least 100 to 120 grams of protein
Okay.
and around the same grams of fat as a starting point. You're probably going to find that you're
Okay.
really satiated at that, right? You're going to find, I think, that you feel really good, that you're not hungry. Let's get breakfast in.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Go ahead.
For me it's kind of a catch with the fat because I almost feel at this point that I'm doing about a 1-to-1 ratio. I almost feel like I'm getting in a little bit too much fat, but here's
Yeah.
the catch. I have I have a lot of like panic anxiety disorder kind of issues going
Yeah.
on, and I know that fat is so good for my brain.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's also inhibiting me from getting like just to that next weight level. So it's kind of like weird, what do I want to put first? Obviously, I have to put my mental health first, but I really
Yeah.
think that I need to get that weight off too. So where do I go with that?
Right. Well, you want to put your mental health first, but you really want to get the weight off, which really wanting to get the weight off so bad can also affect mental health, right? So it's like there's a vicious cycle that we got to avoid, right? So you don't want to get too caught up on it, right? But yes, I agree. We want to find a balance. What if we did something like this? What if we undulate the caloric intake? Whereas before you would be eating the same macros every day, what if we did a little bit of fluctuation where on the days when you can handle it, we're going for less fat, right? So we want to go, let's say like half the days. We could even do like an every other day type of thing. And this doesn't need to get really meticulous. You can kind of fluctuate as you feel and learn to listen to your body. When you need more fat, if you have a high stress day, if you get poor sleep, and you've got loads of work that day and you're stressing out, those are the days where you're probably going to want to increase the fat intake a little bit. But on days when you can handle it, on days when your hunger is low, let's go for like 70 to 80 grams of fat, right? And maybe be on like the lower end of the protein, 100 to 120 protein. And we can have some days where there's less fat intake and then other days where you're balancing it out with a little bit more fat when you need it. Right, so we don't have to do the same macros every day. We can fluctuate the calories, and when you need those calories, we can increase them. On days when the stress is low, we want to strike when the iron's hot. Right, we want to keep hunger low as we can, and if we can, go a little bit lower on fat on some of those days, we'll fluctuate it. But essentially, what you want to learn to do is communicate with your body. You want to know when your brain needs the fat and when it doesn't.
Sure.
So like, maybe every other day, every other day you're decreasing the fat a little bit. Maybe every other day maybe one day you'll do 120 fat. The next day you might do 80 grams of fat when you can handle it.
So how do you feel about alternating in some, some intermittent fasting with OMAD kind of deal?
I don't think in your situation, I think in your situation it's better to do 2 meals a day, right?
Okay.
Instead of intermittent fasting. Okay. And we're another spoiler alert. This is we get more into this stuff usually in the second and third week. But for you, in your case, I think eating breakfast and dinner would be a good idea, right? And dinner can be as late as like 6:30, 7 o'clock if you need to, or it can be as early as like 3:30, 4 o'clock. So if you have breakfast within an hour of waking up, and then you have your last meal at 3:30. Like that's actually a pretty big fasting window, and you'd probably really feel minimal hunger throughout it because you're getting a good breakfast in and you're getting another meal in later in the day. So OMAD, when you've got anxiety, when you've got when females have hormonal imbalances also, OMAD can kind of exacerbate it sometimes. So
I'll tell you what's kind of interesting with that is when I do OMAD, and I don't really care about my ketone numbers, but I kind of play with it just to see what's going on.
Yeah.
When I get my ketone levels really high through OMAD, I feel really, really good.
Yeah.
But when I refeed, I almost crash. So it's it almost makes me bipolar.
Yeah, so we want to avoid that. We want more steadiness, right? We don't want to have the highs and the lows. That's why I think 2 meals a day might be a little better. Now, the reason we feel so good when we're in the fast is stress hormones elevate. Stress hormones are not inherently bad, but when we've got imbalances, when we've got anxiety, they can exacerbate it, and the swings in those hormonal states can cause imbalances.
Okay.
So, yeah, we just want to kind of...
So, yeah, that's a little different. I don't typically eat breakfast. I usually prolong until about 11 because... For me, sometimes I feel like the earlier I eat, the more I want to eat throughout the day.
Yeah.
So but that's historically. I haven't experimented with trying to eat early in the day in a long time. So this might be actually a good, better approach for me at this stage of the game.
Yes, and well, the fact that you're not, if you think it's not going to work, it won't work, right? So the fact that you're open to it is great. Try to eat the first meal try to eat it before 9 p.m.
Okay.
Right, so I mean, hey, if you wake up at 6 and you have your first meal at 8:30, that's fine. You still got a couple hours where you're waiting. You can move around. Going for a 10 to 15 minute walk after each meal is a really good idea too. If you got time, 10 to 15 minute walk after
Sure.
that meal to get the digestion moving, to get the peristalsis going, and to lower blood glucose levels. That should be real helpful. So those crashes after the meals. Sometimes those are just blood glucose dysregulation, and you can improve the insulin sensitivity through a simple 10 to 15 minute walk. So let's work on that. 10, 15 minute
Okay.
walk after the meal. In the morning before the meal, if you can go for like a nice walk, really kind of get the blood flowing, or if you have a rebounder, a little trampoline or something you can jump on, just a little bit of activity before the meal could be nice too to kind of kickstart the metabolism.
Yeah, I like that. I can do that.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, you got the right attitude. I think that these
Yeah,
shifts are
thanks.
definitely going to help. And then, yeah, Jesse, anything you need, let us know. We don't have to. You don't have to go like full carnivorous, but I want to minimize the cheese. Let's pull the cheese
Yeah.
out, and let's.
On you.
You get. It doesn't mean you got to give it up forever. Doesn't don't hate me for it, but yeah, I think that'll help because cheese is so easy to overeat. Same with nuts; it's really easy to overeat it. But cheese is a really good
Okay, so
quality
mix the
food.
cheese and the nut. And I don't do a ton of veg, but I mean, I don't think I have an oxalate issue. I
Yeah.
like my spinach, but I don't overeat it. I just kind of pop it in once in a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think no nuts, no cheese, probably no dairy. Period. You think?
I think avoiding the dairy for now.
Yeah.
I mean, butter's fine.
Mm.
Butter's fine. Cooking in butter's fine,
Okay.
but avoid the spinach if you can. Like, if you're gonna have vegetables, go for lettuce. Right, lettuce very low oxalate. Spinach very
Cool.
high. Avoid the spinach. Avoid the kales. And if you're gonna have a salad with romaine or iceberg lettuce, that's fine. But let's avoid those
Okay.
oxalate foods because with anxiety, oxalates can be pretty profound. So let's see
Okay.
how you feel with that.
Okay, I can do that.
All right.
I'll do whatever you say, man.
All right. Well, you're good. I mean, the fact that you've already lost 100 pounds. I mean, yeah, I think you've done the hardest. You've done the hard work already. Right? We're just dialing in a little
Yeah.
bit. So congratulations on what you've already done. Really
Thank
impressed
you.
with
Well,
it.
I owe a lot of it to you. I've been following you for a long time, so I think that you've steered me in the right direction without even knowing it.
Fantastic. All right, Jesse. Well, really good to get to know you. We're excited to see how you do with this. And
Thank you.
as you know, we're not going to see every single day progress on the scale, hormonal fluctuation throughout the month. I mean, you can gain 5 to 10 pounds around your period and then lose it again as water weight. So let's watch the scale, but not focus too much on the scale. And we want
Yeah.
to see an overall downtrend over the next few weeks. Anything over a pound a week is really good progress. So
Right on.
2 pounds a week is amazing. 1 pound a week is great. And we do see fluctuation day to day, and even from the morning to the evening, you might see 3 to 4 pound fluctuations. So don't get discouraged, and let's monitor progress.
Sure.
Cool, Jesse.
Sweet.
Take a waist measurement too. Don't just look at the scale. Let's take a waist measurement. If your pants are fitting looser, but the scale hasn't moved, that could mean you're building some muscle.
Yeah, and I've seen that too. I've probably only lost about 15 pounds in the last 8-10 months total, but my waist size has gone down 3 inches. So I take that.
There you go. Well, congrats on the progress. We're excited to have you here.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing the triumphant news of the fat loss so far. I think a lot of people in here are looking to do what you've already done. So I think it'll be great to have you.
Yeah, and they can all do it. Everybody can do it. If I can do it, I'm a schmuck. If I can do it, anybody can.
It's not that hard. The hardest part is setting up the habits and breaking those old habits. But once it's ingrained, it gets easier and easier every day to skip on the cakes and to pick the steaks. So we're good. We're excited for you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, Jesse. Let us know if you need anything.
Okay, will do. Thanks.
Great. All right. Going down the line. June. How do you?
Yeah, June.
June.
I think
June is next. Well, it says June Jung.
I don't have a
June Jung. Hey there.
Hello. Hey.
How's it going, man?
Hi. Hi. This is June, like the month. Yep.
Right on, man. Great to hear from you. Great to know you. How you doing today?
I'm pretty good. So I'm in Korea right now, so it's like almost 2 a.m.
Oh
That's why
man.
my voice is kind of weird, but
Yeah.
yeah. uh, yeah. So I'm
This
doing keto
questionnaire.
because I'm suffering from this autoimmune condition called ankylosing spondylitis.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a bunch of joint pain and inflammation, and I'm treating myself with like leaky gut after searching internet a little bit.
Yeah.
So I've been doing this diet for almost 2 years, but I don't think it's quite keto because I don't take too much fat. So I'm pretty much on like low carb diet for 2 years.
And are you underweight? I don't have your questionnaire here, but what is your weight?
Oh yeah, I was just filling it in. I'm like 6 feet and I'm like 130 pounds, so I'm like seriously underweight. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I don't know why. I say usually with autoimmune conditions and really bad joint pain, a lot of people are starting out underweight, and
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I was
So
wondering how you know. Yeah.
yeah, no, I just kind of intuit. I don't know. I just kind of guessed. Like you get these algorithms in your head
Oh
after talking to so many people. The algorithms that kind of form in your head kind of just start spitting out
yeah.
things sometimes. But all right, in your case, what we want to do is obviously we want to put on some healthy weight. That's one of the goals, and I think in your situation, especially because you're dealing with chronic joint pain and autoimmune condition, the best way to go would be with a more carnivorous diet. So focusing on ruminant meat, focusing on red meat, on lamb, sheep, goat meat, beef, fatty meat and fat, keeping fiber to a minimum and keeping the vegetables to a minimum. Some fermented vegetables are probably fine, but I would stay away from a lot of the spices. A lot of these peppers and stuff, like these lectin-rich foods and oxalate-rich foods. We want to avoid them. So in your case, I would go more towards a carnivorous diet. And because you have to put some weight on, we might want to use some select carbohydrates. But let's start out. You're 6 foot, right? Okay. I want you to be getting in at least 2 pounds of meat a day. Right?
Oh, 2 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
So around 2 pounds of meat a day, and I want that meat to be fatty. All right, 2 pounds of fatty meat per day. Butter would be a good one to use. Can you digest butter well, and dairy? Can you handle dairy well?
Probably not like milk too much, but yeah, I eat butter and ghee.
All right,
Well,
great. Butter and ghee are fantastic fat sources. Butter, ghee, beef fat, tallow. These are all really good fat sources. I would go more towards a carnivorous approach, and maybe let's do. How do you handle carbohydrates? Like you mentioned you've been doing keto for a little while because you want to put on weight. Carbohydrates are really helpful. When's the last time you had white rice?
so whenever I eat like starchy carbohydrate, I like my flare ups like I flare up really bad
Yeah.
and my inflammation like level goes up,
Okay.
joint pain goes up. So I try not to do too much of starch and like do more of sugar.
What about honey? Raw honey? You okay with that?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So what I would do. Let's see.
Yeah.
What about fruit? Can you handle fruit?
Yeah, I can handle fruit. Yeah.
Okay. Let's do each day. Let's try to get 100 grams of carb from fruit or honey. Right. So everybody
I was
listening,
wondering,
go ahead.
I was wondering if they could kick me out from ketosis.
It would,
That's
but
why I wasn't.
yeah, what we want to do is we want to focus on low inflammatory foods that you can digest really well. You're not going to be in ketosis, but you're going to put on weight, right? The goal is we want to put on some weight. So we want to focus on the fats and the proteins, the nutrient-dense animal foods to give you all those micronutrients you need. And then we want to add some easily digestible carbs to increase the insulin levels so that you can put some healthy weight on. Right? It's really hard to gain weight on keto because satiety is so high, right? Hunger drops down so low when we pull the carbs out that it makes it easy to stay underweight. If you find that you don't feel nearly as good when you're using carbohydrates, then you can pull some of the carbs out. And but yeah, this is one of these cases where, I mean, you're probably 30 pounds underweight, right? 20 to 30 pounds underweight. We want to add some weight. So if we can get you lifting weights 2 times a week or even 3 times a week, that'd be great too, like a full body workout twice weekly, to try to stimulate some muscle growth while getting enough protein and fat. I'd say as far as protein and fat goes, you want to get at least like 2 pounds of meat, right? So like 2 meals. If you can get 1.5 pounds and that's enough, that should be fine. But we could try to get about 2 pounds of meat in per day, 1.5 to 2 pounds of meat per day.
Okay.
With about 100 grams of carbs coming from foods like honey and fruit. Now, for people listening, they might be really confused. If you're trying to lose weight, you want to keep the carbs out. But to put weight on, carbohydrates are a powerful tool. Some of the issues that people run into, though, is that the carbs they try to eat would be like potatoes and sweet potatoes, or if they don't digest rice or starch as well, they're trying to put stuff down that they just don't digest. Mostly, for the most part, for most people, the easiest digestible carbs are the low fiber, high sugar foods, right? Like things like white rice. I mean, people think that whole grains are way better. Actually, white rice is much more easy to digest than whole grains. So in certain cases, using carbohydrates, the right type of carbohydrates to put on weight, can be really useful for boosting those calories up. And this is one of those cases. So if you got 100 pounds to lose, you're not going to be doing what June's doing. But if you got 10, 15, 20 pounds that you need to gain, this is a good route to go, right? Still focusing on the animal foods, but increasing the carbohydrates a little bit just to get those calories up, right? So focus on low inflammatory ones. If you start to find that you get inflamed and you get reactions when you have these carbs, then we'll pull them out and we'll try a different route. But if we get the right fruits that are easily digestible, things like raw honey, usually really easily digestible. A lot of people handle white rice really well, some don't. It depends on the context. So June, we want to get those calories up, and we want to get you putting on some healthy weight while avoiding oxalate. So avoid oxalate, stay on low oxalate foods. And we've got a low oxalate food list. Can you send that or maybe post it in the main chat? Jessica's going to post for you in the main chat a link to a list of low oxalate and high oxalate foods that you'd avoid. And yeah, let's make sure to stay on a low oxalate diet, focusing on the animal foods, using the carbohydrates in order to increase insulin and put on weight.
Okay. Do you think I should avoid the psyllium husk and those and those fibers?
Yes.
Like, you don't want? Oh.
Yes. Avoid unnecessary fiber. The fiber that comes with the fruit should be pretty easily digestible. Do you find you do well with psyllium husk?
I don't have a problem with it, but I'm not sure if it's better for me.
Let's pull it out. Let's pull it out. And if you don't feel any difference when you pull it out, if you feel like you miss it, you can add it back in. But let's start real basic.
Oh, okay.
The fiber you have, I want it to just come from like the fruit that you have. So that'll be mostly soluble fiber, which is easier to digest. When did the autoimmune stuff start?
So I've been suffering from this for like almost 10 years, and I'm 29.
Yeah. So when you're 19.
When I was 20, yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Right.
When was there a specific incident that happened when it started?
Not really. I went skydiving, and it started like 2 months after that, but I'm not sure if it's related to that. I think it's more of my diet and my leaky gut issue that started that.
Yeah. So that's why we want to focus on foods that are real easy to digest, right? So, avoiding foods that are going to ferment too much in the gut, really good idea. And the reason the carbohydrates are there is because a ketogenic diet makes it really, really easy to restrict calories, and we want to get those calories up. So let's try this approach. If you don't feel well at all after a week, if you feel really bad with the carbs, then we can pull the carbs out and try to just increase the fat in order to gain weight. But carbohydrates make it a lot easier. So, just adding a little bit of, like if you're going to have a meal and you have some suet on the side, right? Do you ever get suet? Like from beef suet?
I I do get talo and ghee, but suet's like really hard to get in Korea.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, adding a little bit of one of the things that food companies realized a long time ago is to make people fat. If you add fat and carbohydrates, if you add carbohydrate to fat, it makes it taste really good. So like, if you have like a little bit of honey on a fatty food, it makes it more palatable and makes you able to eat a lot more of it. So if you leverage that, like using a little bit of raw honey on, like a fatty steak or something, or on a good fat source, it'll make it to where you can eat a lot more of it. Even like butter and honey, like our kids love butter and honey. They just mix butter and honey together. It tastes like cheesecake or something. So if you're trying to lose weight, everybody disregard this advice, right? But this is for a case when he's trying to put some weight on. So adding a little bit of good healthy sugars from something like raw honey to some fat, that can be a good way to put on some weight. So let's try that.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, man. No, I really look forward to seeing. I mean, obviously, we've got 4 weeks to work on this. We're not in a hurry, but I want to dial everybody in and get you guys on track as well as we can this first week, so that everybody's got a good footing, and so we can see what adjustments we need to make during the next month. But yeah, June, thank you for sharing. I look forward to seeing how you do with this, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, and anything you need, let us know. If you got any questions, if you got any concerns, just send us a private message or tag us in the text chat. We're here for you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
All right, June. Nice to meet you, man.
Nice meeting you.
All right. Next, we got Mr. Orsom. Do you have his questionnaire, Jessica?
I think it's David.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going? Is it David?
It is, yeah. How you doing?
What's up, David? Jessica guessed it. How's it going today, man?
Guess what?
She guessed your name. Well, your name on the Discord, it says Mr. Orsom, and then she was like, "Well, I think that's David."
Right. I have changed it to David, so hopefully when I log back out and in again, it'll show my name. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm doing well today. Doing very well today. Yeah.
So you're over there in Birmingham, UK?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. So
Yeah. So I just restarted the diet today. Meant to start it yesterday, but it didn't happen. But as of today, I'm kind of back eating kind of carnivore-ish.
all right. What did the meals look like so far today? Did you have breakfast?
I haven't eaten breakfast in years.
Yeah.
And listening to what you were just saying, it sounds like maybe that's something I need to look at doing. Because I often get really I'm a mature student, so I go to university.
Yeah.
And often I'll go to university in the morning, and by mid-afternoon, I'm starving.
Yeah.
And that's when bad decisions are easily made, when I'm really, really hungry. So I'm wondering now if I need to start eating breakfast again for the first time in years.
Yeah. I think you're onto something there, man. I think your case, especially as somebody who hasn't eaten breakfast in years, it's worth a try, right? Hey, it might not be the magic bullet, but it just might be. So let's try to get breakfast in before you go to school. Let's get yourself fed and get your brain those nutrients before it needs it. Let's eat before you get hungry, right? That's when I want you to make the rules. Before you get to the spot where you're starving hungry and where you might make a bad decision or go to the diner and order a sandwich, get in a good meal. So let's try to get in at least like 60 grams of protein in the morning. Let's see, how tall are you? You are
5'11", nearly 6 foot. I like to think I'm 6 foot, but I'm not quite.
all right, 5'11" and 1/3, we'll say. Let's go for about, I'd say, all right, so in your case, we want to get in at least, let's go for like 130 protein and 130 fat. Let's do 150 fat. 130 protein and 150 grams of fat to start. That means each meal is going to be like 3/4 of a pound of meat at least. All right, we want to be satiated. Let's go for, if you're going to do vegetables, keep them low on the oxalates. So avoid spinach and stuff. Go for more like lettuces if you're going to do vegetables. And let's Let's focus on those proteins and fats, fatty animal foods. You mentioned you want to start eating a little bit of offal. You've learned a little bit about that. Yeah, it's great. We don't have to include these foods right away. You don't have to force yourself to eat foods that you don't like yet. But it's nice to actually get in some of these more nutrient dense foods like kidney, one of the best foods you can eat. Liver, one of the best foods you can eat. So trying these eventually would be great. But I think the biggest thing for you is going to be breakfast. Start out with a big breakfast, right? So like for breakfast, if you can get in 3/4 of a pound to a pound of meat with some good fat in the morning before you go to school, that is probably going to be the most powerful habit that we can get ingrained there.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. I don't tend to eat vegetables. I gave them up maybe 18 months ago because, I've been on and off carnivore. And once I kind of found out the impact of particularly the green vegetables, I just dropped them all from my diet.
Yeah.
I do sometimes add in a little bit of onion for flavor, a little bit of garlic for flavor, but that's about it really.
Yeah.
Not particularly drawn by eating large amounts of vegetables.
Yeah, well, it's funny when you look at all these healthy populations everywhere. All right, when you look at anthropology and work like Weston A. Price, he wrote this book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, which I highly recommend everybody here read. Fantastic book, especially if you've got kids or if you've got friends and family that are vegan, vegetarian. This is a one to read, one to share with them because it shows exactly how healthy populations ate before contact with the Western exported junk foods that everybody's addicted to now. And what's interesting is the common thread between all these populations is they all ate a primarily animal foods diet. Most of them ate some seasonal local carbohydrates, but none of them ate a whole bunch of leafy greens. The seasonal carbohydrates that people would eat would be starches, tubers, roots, honey, sugars, and fruits. But these were not the main portion of the diet. They looked at these as seasonal foods. They looked at these as some of them were foods that they could store. Some of them would use some grains that, when properly prepared, could be digested. But leafy greens were not on the menu for all these people. These healthy populations before contact with the Western world were not going around making salads from their garden. They were more concerned with the animal fats and proteins, and then starches and sugars were where they would get the other foods from, which is, I'm not, a ketogenic approach is fantastic, right? But that doesn't mean that all carbohydrates are bad. But if we got a whole bunch of weight to lose, we don't need them, right? If we're trying to gain weight, we're trying to perform optimally as far as like athletic performance goes, and we've got, if we're training twice a day or something, carbohydrates, great. But if we've got 50 pounds, 100 pounds to lose, totally unnecessary. So in your case, focus on the protein and fat, the fatty animal foods, and don't worry about the leafy greens. Look at fatty animal foods as the foundation of the diet, and we should be good. You got plenty of weight to lose. You're going to start tapping into that body fat, and you're going to be burning that body fat really effectively. So let's get breakfast in. And if we could move towards, we'll talk about this in the next couple weeks, but let's try to get the last meal in a little earlier as we move forward, right? Like maybe for now, like get the last meal in by 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening would be fine, but eventually having a breakfast before 9 o'clock and then getting in the last meal before like 4 o'clock in the afternoon would be nice because it would give you a good fasting period and allow you to burn more body fat.
Okay, yeah, that should be doable. That should be fine.
Nice, man. So I like your questionnaire here is great. I love the answers. Really funny and honest. You said, if you have any major health issues, you said anxiety, neck pain, general fat guy issues, lack of breath, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. You're gonna find
I had to walk 5 or 10 minutes the other day, and I was sweating and breathing badly.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. So you're another one of these cases where the 10 to 15 minute walk could be a major game changer. So before or after the meal, if you can get a good walk in before your first meal, that'd be cool. And then after every meal, get a 10 to 15 minute walk in. Right? So 2 to 3 10 to 15 minute walks per day. It doesn't have to be intense. You don't have to go running or anything like that. You don't have to get crazy intense exercise, but 10 to 15 minute walk. That's what I want you to work on. Every time you eat, 10 to 15 minute walk afterwards. Get the metabolism going, get the brain functioning and burning those nutrients, burning that fat and moving those nutrients through the body. That's what I want you to focus on.
I can do that.
So real simple, man. Real simple approach. You got, of course, it's going to take time, right? You're looking at about a year of really intense fat loss ahead of you, maybe 2 years. But if we can get these habits ingrained and enjoy them, and time the meals right, which we'll talk a little bit more about next week, you will be good.
Brilliant. That's what it's all about for me, is getting the habits and doing them for the long term. Because, I did keto for 5 months once and lost loads of weight. It was wonderful. And then it took one little lapse and it just spiraled from there.
Yep.
Back out of control again. Absolutely horrible. I did have one quick question. I put it on the Q&A channel, but coffee, do you tend to not recommend coffee?
Coffee's fine. Coffee's fine. If you need coffee to get out of
Right.
bed, not to, I mean, there might be some issues. If you need 12 cups of coffee a day, something might be going on. But yeah, coffee's fine in moderation.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we don't want it to be, necessary to, if you can't lift a finger without coffee, something's going on.
Yeah, no, it's not that bad, but I do crave it a bit in the mornings.
I won't take your coffee. Don't worry. We'll be good with that.
Okay, great.
All right. Cool, man.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah, David. Well, we're excited for you. Anything you need, let us know.
Thank you very much, bud.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sending the questionnaire. And anybody listening, if you haven't sent us the questionnaire, go ahead and fill it out and shoot it over to Jessica's email whenever you get a chance. So now we'll have a good one, man. Really nice to meet you, David. Let us know if you need anything.
Cheers.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Suzanne, last but not least. Sorry, we started at the top, Suzanne. You've been waiting patiently. Really glad to have you here.
Hi.
How's it going? We'll start at the bottom next time because yes, I can hear you, Suzanne.
Hi.
Hey there. So you're up in British Columbia, Canada, right?
Yep.
Nice. How you doing today?
Okay, I am feeling hopeful. I'm coming from sort of feeling really hopeless about this whole situation, and I've been keto for about 3 years or more, and I did well initially, and then I think it was sort of the not carb creep. Well, a little bit like more snacking and nuts and a little bit of chocolate, that kind of thing, and just kept me sort of up and down. And then I did a fasting program, but that was sort of like a really stressful for me. And then it sort of led to binge eating again, keto, like natural foods, like not any junk or even keto processed stuff, like nothing like that. But I'd just sort of been going up and down the same few pounds. And then for the first time in that 3 years, I was on holiday last month and in just a stressful situation, and I came off keto for the first time and just had a hard time getting the food. It's like, too much to go into. But anyway, I've been back on for 2 weeks today. And I feel good that I've gotten myself back into the rhythm and things like that. I'm pretty much carnivore now, I think, except for when I'm sort of having to eat around people.
Yeah.
And so I have a little bit of vegetable because I just don't want to go there right now, because it's not even like I can say, well, look, I'm doing really well. I'm sitting here at least 100 pounds overweight, so I've sort of got that kind of social thing going on, and I've never really tracked my macros apart from keeping my carbs low and with keto, but every time I go into it, I sort of I'm just not sure. And then I hear people say, well, don't try and eat up to your macros, and there's so many different macro formulations, so I'm sort of looking forward to hearing sort of what your take is on that, because I just feel like I don't really know what I'm doing wrong. And I've been pretty strict these 2 weeks. I just weighed myself last Monday so I could fill out the questionnaire and everything, and I thought I would drop some weight, given that I've been carby for a month and then back on, and I haven't dropped any weight this week, so I'm just sort of like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, don't get discouraged. It's that cycle of being discouraged and demoralized. That can be something that can really it can self-sabotage. So look, it takes time, right? You got 100
Yeah.
pounds. We're not looking at a
Yeah.
few weeks. We're looking at a couple years of habits that we need to nail down. So let's focus on the macros. First of all, as far as the macros go for you, a good place to start would be at around, let's go for around 100 to 120 grams of protein and about the same grams of fat per day. And you're going to probably find that you feel really good around, you'll probably find around 90 grams of protein and 90 grams of fat will be really good for satiety, but let's start out a little bit higher, right? We want to induce satiety. We don't want to worry so much about fat loss at first. We want to get satiety and make it to where you're comfortable. So let's get about 100 to 120 protein and about the same grams of fat per day. Let's try to get breakfast in within a couple hours of waking up if you can. You can do 2 meals a day or 3 meals a day, whichever one you prefer. That's going to be up to your discretion. And let's focus on mostly carnivore, right? Let's go for fatty meat, eggs, right? Animal foods, fish, eggs, meat. If you're eating out, it's fine to have other things, but I'd say as far as the social situation, I don't think people really care as much as we think. Sometimes we think other people are going to be, freaked out if we don't eat the vegetables on our plate, but most people don't notice. Most people don't care.
I've just sort of had people, making comments sort of, and I guess, in fairness, I've done so many different diet regimes and,
Yeah.
it's like, well, what are you not eating or eating this week? And then I've had people, say to me, well, why are you doing this keto anyway? And I, was just really embarrassed and sort of mumbled about, well, lower inflammation and all that stuff. But basically they're not seeing any weight loss. So, I can understand why they're
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, why are you doing it?" It wasn't like unkind or anything. It was just like, "Why are you doing this to yourself?" Sort of thing.
Right. Maybe
So
they're worried. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm a little, and they already think that there's so much still people out there that think you need all the grains and the fiber and then this and then that. So it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's hard. Well, what's really important is that you're actually putting in the work, that you're actually doing something, that you have faith that what you're doing is going to work, right? So when people ask you questions, and it sometimes will bring up our insecurities, right? When we have to explain ourselves to
Oh
somebody,
yeah.
it's gonna, all our doubts, everything comes to the surface in those situations. So, so you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to explain your diet to everybody. Really, what you want to do is you want to do what works. All right, so don't be so
Yeah.
concerned with what other people are thinking. It's easier said than done, of course, but focus on getting the
Yeah.
progress. Focus on getting the habits in there. Yeah, people care about you. Your friends and family, they love you. They're gonna ask questions. They're gonna be concerned. Understand that they're coming from a place of they want you to be well, hopefully,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and I do see that. I mean, it's like I said, it's not, I don't take it as being unkind. It's just
yeah.
like confused or perplexed.
Exactly. So, yeah, don't
Yeah.
worry so much about what other people are saying and thinking about it. Just let's focus on getting these the nutrient dense animal foods in. Let's focus on nailing these macros. Let's stick with this. If you can stick with this, if you get like about 100 120 protein a day and fat about equal grams, but I think after a week or so, you're going to find that you feel really good at like 90 grams of protein and 90 grams of fat. That's like about a pound of meat a day. And you've got plenty of body fat to burn. You're going to feel good. Let's get a 15-minute walk in with each meal. A 10 to 15-minute walk after each meal would be really good for the body in general. Go for a little walk in the morning when you wake up if you can. Spend some time outside. Sunshine, right? Get some natural light. Natural sunshine during the day. Read a book in the sun when you can, while you can. I know the seasonal changes are coming, and it might not be as nice really soon. So get the good sunshine when you can, and yeah, let's build from there. I mean, people around you. They love you. They care about you. They want you to do what's best for you. And if you've got a history of kind of yo-yo dieting around, of course you're gonna expect, and they're gonna expect to see more of the same. But what's most important
Yeah.
is that you know what you're doing, that you can do it long term, that you can enjoy it long term. You know it's gonna work. All right, you got a lot of people here. You just heard Jesse lost over 100 pounds She's done what you're doing now. You've got people here to help you, to support you, and what you're trying to do. It is not impossible. It's not even that difficult. It just takes time, it takes patience, and it takes perseverance. And you really want it, and that's why you're here. And we're here to help you. So, Suzanne, we really appreciate you being here. And anything you need, let us know. Let's start out with the foundations. Let's get enough of the protein and fat in. Let's induce satiety. Let's try to get those meals in. Let's get a meal in early in the day. Try to get the meals in before you get really hungry. And yeah, I think you're going to feel really good once we dial this in and start to see progress.
Yeah, thank you. Can I just ask you, I've been playing with one thing I do have, like never done a lot of cheese or anything, and I'm staying away from nuts and all that kind of thing, but I do have like usually a cup of coffee a day, and I have probably about 4 tablespoons of the whipping cream in, and I've been playing with cutting that out. I know there's that whole thing around dairy, like I don't have any, the sort of typical dairy symptoms of intolerance or anything like that, but
Right.
I just sort of go back and forth on what to do about that, and I know it's more calories or with liquid calories, and
it's real easy to eat a
so-
lot of, right? It's easy to lose control over that one. In your case, you'd be best suited to avoid it, right? It doesn't mean you got to avoid it forever, but for now, while you want to burn body fat, avoid it.
Yeah.
Right? You want to fill up on foods you want to fill up on things like beef, ground beef, fatty cuts of meat. Choose ruminant animals over pork when you can. Beef before chicken. The more stomachs the animal has, the better. But yeah, let's avoid the dairy. That's a really one. Like I can drink a liter of cream, easily. Like it's just it's so easy to eat it, and it's a great food for putting weight on, but it's a food that makes it difficult to lose weight when we've got a lot of it around.
Okay, and I know you said the thing about pork, and I was listening to one of the podcasts about it, and I often, like when I have a couple of eggs, and then I have like 4 slices of bacon with it.
Yeah.
And you're saying it's better to sort of avoid the bacon or
I'm not saying you have to avoid it completely, but as far as the fats go, you're gonna get better fat, more satiety from beef than you will from pork. It's just a better fatty acid profile.
Okay. So when you have something like eggs and stuff, is there anything you suggest with it, or is it just have more eggs sort of thing better?
Well, I would rather have
Instead of
maybe some eggs and maybe some meatballs on the side, or eggs and some ground beef. Slow cooked meat,
Okay.
right? Throw some meat in the slow cooker, some meaty bones in the slow cooker, pick some of that meat off, put it on the side of the eggs. That's a really good one too.
Okay. And if you don't, with the macros, like every time I try, and I've been playing around with them, and I haven't had the ones you've recommended obviously yet, but I every time I do, like it's like I think I'm eating a lot of meat, but then it's still low in protein. By 25 grams I'm below, and I'm just having a hard time sort of figuring that out. Or do I need to worry about it? Or
Yeah, I would focus. Let's focus on getting in the. Let's focus on eggs. Let's focus on beef. Let's focus on the animal fats and proteins, and the satiety should come, right? Like when you're getting enough of the protein and fat, you should be satiated, and
Okay.
we don't need to. Like variety is nice, right? Like having a variety of different foods is nice. Like it's great to have some bacon every once in a while. We just don't want to make it like every day having whole meals based around the bacon. I'd rather you focus more on the beef, more on things like lamb and ruminant meat. Right? It's just the mineral profile, the micronutrient profile is far superior on those foods.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Suzanne, thanks for joining us. We're really excited for you. You've had a roller coaster ride so far, and it's not, it's what you're doing. You're going about this in a really intelligent way. This is, as far as losing 100 pounds, this is the best route to take. Minimizing the carbohydrates, tapping into that body fat effectively, giving yourself nutrient-dense food so that you can maintain muscle mass, bone mineral density, getting those fat-soluble vitamins in. You're taking the right path. patience is key, right? Like you gotta trust in the process, trust that you can do this, and let's watch the scale, let's watch the waist. Sometimes you'll get 3 inches lost on the waist, but the scale doesn't move. There can be non-scale victories, so we can let's keep it up. I think you're on the right track, and you're gonna see a lot of progress this month, and we're gonna dial it in. You're gonna be good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, really, really nice to meet you, Suzanne. All right. Looks like everybody's gotten a chance to talk today. We're gonna be back in here on Thursday, same time, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, or actually that's 11 a.m. EST on Thursday. We'll be in here again. I know there's some people who didn't get to talk, who didn't get to make it to this one. They'll be able to listen to this as a live recording, which I will post as soon as it's done uploading. So everybody, welcome to this month's Keto Collective. Super excited to have you all here. We are honored to have you. We're super excited to see where this goes. And any questions you have, feel free to private message us or tag us in the text chat sections. And we're super stoked to meet you all. So it's going to be a good month. Jessica, any last thoughts?
No, I'm super stoked. Nothing specific for me. I'm just really stoked and very inspired to meet you all and hear your stories. And I'm really excited to see what you guys do this month.
All right, so it's the first session. Remember, we got plenty of time this month. We're not in a hurry. We got 4 weeks to work on this and to dial it all in. On Thursday, we'll be in here with another Q&A, so bring whatever questions you got. If you're not going to be able to make it to the chat, you can put your questions up in the Q&A questions section, and we'll answer them during the next Q&A. Everybody, thank you for joining us, this Keto and Carnivore Collective. We're super excited to work with you all month, and feel free to send us a private message. We will see you on Thursday. Bye, guys. Nice to meet you all.